Hi, Josie.
Hi.
Tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are and what you do.
Oh, tell you who I am. That's a funny question. I am an acupuncturist that specializes in working with women and women's health. So I treat a lot of menstrual conditions, reproductive conditions, pregnancy health concerns, labor induction, postpartum, all kinds
Okay.
of things. In addition to, general acupuncture practices. So mostly pain is what we see a lot of, but
Okay.
working with women is really my passion.
Okay. Awesome. And what is acupuncture exactly?
Acupuncture is the practice of inserting needles into specific points in the body to get your body to heal on its own, based on the function of those points or the location of those points. And like, I know that sounds terrible. It's really not as barbaric and as torturous as it sounds.
And so like where this is comes from Chinese medicine, is that correct? What's the
There's actually
system behind it?
there's a lot of debate about that, because historically records of acupuncture exist in a lot of different countries. So I
Mm-hmm.
can't necessarily say that it's Chinese, but I will say that my training specifically is in traditional Chinese medicine,
Okay.
otherwise called TCM. So yes, but there's definitely acupuncture in like Korean style, Japanese style,
Okay.
multiple different countries.
And what, like for someone in pregnancy, what might be a reason that they would come to see you?
I would say the earliest stage, we try to help people to prevent miscarriage, which is a biggie because currently 1 in 4 pregnancies results in miscarriage, regardless of how the pregnancy was conceived. So whether it was natural, IUI, or IVF, the risk is there. So that would be the earliest thing. And then after that, usually first trimester symptoms. So things like vomiting, nausea, acid reflux, either constipation or diarrhea, like all of those discomforts
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
are some of the ones we see the most.
And then, like progressing through the pregnancy, can acupuncture help with like delivery preparation and getting everything ready for the baby to come out?
Yes, one of my favorites. Definitely, even before then, if aches and pains develop,
Mm-hmm.
the body is changing, and like sciatica develops for some people, acupuncture is definitely a wonderful treatment for that. But yeah, doing labor prep, and trying to get the body ready for labor is awesome. And also doing, I don't like to use the term labor induction anymore, even though it's the most popular. But when women are sort of entering the stages of labor, acupuncture can really help to speed things up
Okay.
and shorten the labor process.
And how does someone know, like, when is it appropriate for someone to start thinking about speeding things up towards delivery?
I would say anyone who plans on delivering doesn't want to be in delivery forever.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't wait until then. I would probably start seeing a practitioner or talking to a practitioner no later than like 34 weeks
Mm-hmm.
or 35 weeks, just because if baby is breech, we can also work to help correct the positioning of the baby. And any other little things like that are present, could be very helpful. If there's high blood pressure present, we can help to try to regulate things before labor comes on, and then at that point you can talk to your practitioner about what you can do to progress labor. But nobody wants to be in labor for 12 hours, right? Like if you
No.
can have a healthy labor in 2,
Yeah.
acupuncture is good for that.
Is there like a risk of, getting things started too early? Or, I know there can be some fear and misconception around, you
Mhm.
know, these various methods, acupuncture, massage, like causing labor to start before it's time.
Yeah,
Um,
that's why for me it's really important to distinguish between labor prep and labor induction, right?
hmm
I won't do a labor induction type of treatment or a contracting promoting type of treatment unless the woman is, at least 37 weeks and above, and the baby is correctly positioned for a vaginal birth, right? If we are preparing for labor, then we have to make sure that the circumstances surrounding the labor are going to be safe for mom. We
hmm
wouldn't be inducing labor prior to that, um, pretty much under any circumstance. The
Right.
only limit there is if the person's going to be induced no matter what. Perhaps there's an issue with blood pressure. There's a risk of eclampsia or preeclampsia or something like that. Then we may actually be working to help with the hypertension at that point, and not
Mhm.
necessarily focusing on induction. But we don't want to induce labor on somebody who is not ready to give birth without it creating complications. So
Yeah.
if we don't know where the umbilical cord is, if we don't know where the placenta is, like all of those things have to be in line and be in a safe space to do it.
And what about someone who knows they're going to have a C-section? Is that, can they still benefit from acupuncture
Absolutely.
towards
Again,
the end?
what yes, one of the reasons why labor prep is different from labor induction, because if we're preparing the body, we're getting it ready for recovery. So we're setting the stage up for like a smoother transition between being pregnant and being not pregnant anymore.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
promoting breast milk too.
yeah. And so, having kind of covered that, what would you recommend as far as, after delivery? What can acupuncture do to help with that?
So postpartum recovery is a really big thing that acupuncture can help with, and it's probably the one that we see the least. People, I either they just don't know or they don't have the support system around them to get them to an acupuncturist office for
Hmm.
recovery. But it definitely helps with everything from helping your body to shed the lochia, so the bleeding that occurs after giving birth. It helps with getting the uterus to tone back up again. It helps with having the milk come in. It helps with a lot more preventative things. Like if we can take care of all of this stuff as it's happening, it's going to
Hmm.
make the recovery smoother for the person later on, which will help them either to conceive other children in the future or facilitate their transition into menopause once they get past their reproductive years.
Okay. Are there any like tips maybe that you might give to people, kind of in that immediate phase right after birth? They're not they're not coming to an acupuncturist yet. They're just at home for the first couple weeks. What kind of tips would you give to a new parent?
I would say if you are not a parent yet, invest the time in preparing for that, because once things happen, things can get real and we really don't know, how the baby is going to be until they get here. So you really want to invest in having like meals, ready for you in your freezer or however, or maybe have family to drop things off for you. But if you're past that point, that ship has sailed, so you're here as a new parent, I would say
Yeah.
the most important things that you can do is keep your body warm. I
Okay.
know that sometimes with the blood loss, people either tend to get really, really cold or tend to get really, really hot. But in
Mhm.
either case, keeping your body warm and covered helps with circulation, which will
Mhm.
help with the recovery because we're going to have more blood flow going into the areas that have been through a lot of change and need that support, but also going into the breast for the production of breast milk.
Okay.
So, keeping your socks on, having warm foods, avoiding ice cold drinks or really cold foods is helpful.
Okay. Um I think that kind of covers like the nitty-gritty of acupuncture during birth, or not during birth, but
I wish. I
yeah.
wish. I know there
That,
are some places that have acupuncturists on call for birth, but
yeah.
if you have one, like New York has a hospital that does that, and it's pretty awesome.
Wow. I feel
Yeah,
like there's probably someplace in Asheville that does that, but
I would not be surprised. Yeah, or like a birthing center, that
mhm.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Um so like to me when I think, if you just Google acupuncture, like tons of stuff comes up. There's like billions of people that come up. What um should people be looking for when they're looking for an acupuncturist specifically supporting this time around, birth?
So we don't get trained in this field a lot in school, right?
Mhm.
This is something that we have to specialize in, do postgraduate work. So it sometimes is by virtue of exposure. Like some
Mhm.
people happen to work in areas where they deal with a lot of prenatal women, and they end up getting a lot of experience that way. But a lot of it is training, and we need to do continuing education to revalidate our licenses anyway. So you're going to want to find someone who markets themselves as having training in this area. There's really not a way that you can necessarily validate it.
Mhm.
There's not like a particular certification that they need to have or anything like that. But I would just ask them questions, and whatever your concerns are, bring it up to them and see how comfortable they are answering your questions and how confident they feel that they
Yeah.
can help you.
Are there any like red flags when you're either looking into someone or you're talking to someone?
Well, for sure, you want to make sure they're licensed to do acupuncture, right?
Okay.
So you want to know that they have a license. I will keep mine posted in my office for people to see.
Mhm.
They can also search it through the national certification body that we have in the US, which is the NCCAOM.
Okay.
And their website, which I believe is nccaom.org, has a registry search. And you can put in the person's name or even look them up by area. If you don't know anyone in particular, you can search, your city, and you'll
Mhm.
see a list of certified practitioners. So that's a good way to do it. A red flag is really someone who doesn't want to offer that information to you, doesn't want to tell you how they
Mhm.
were trained. It does take a master's degree minimum in the U.S. Or in the majority of the states in the U.S. to be able to be licensed. But then your licensing process is different from schooling, so you still have to get board certified in
Okay.
order to apply for licensure. So you definitely
Mhm.
want to inquire about that.
Okay. Cool.
Does that answer
Um,
your question?
yeah, yeah, no, that's
Okay.
that's helpful.
Okay.
Um, I feel like we covered a lot
I
very
feel like I
quickly.
should have brought some needles in to show people what they look like, but it's really not anything in comparison to anything that you've ever experienced. So
Yeah.
if you've had blood work done, if you've had, a vaccine or something like that, these needles have nothing to do with those. So if you're scared of the needles, don't let that be the reason that it stops you from
Yeah.
seeking out acupuncture. 'Cause honestly, plucking your eyebrows, I think, is worse.
Yeah. Well, as someone who has
So
had acupuncture from you, like it's every once in a while there may be like a sensitive spot, but
sure.
I like mm, I can't remember even feeling it, and plucking your eyebrows is definitely more painful.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. I think for the most part, once the needles are in, a few seconds later, you kind of forget that they're even there. And most people
Mhm.
take a nap, and the nap is like amazing, right? Acupuncture
Yes.
puts you in this state of rest and digest where you're aware of everything that's happening around you, but you don't really care as much. So
Yeah.
it's very nice. It's very peaceful, and the body can do a lot of work when it's in that
Yeah.
resting state.
Um okay, I don't have any other specific questions. Is there anything like you want to add or that you want to share with people? Um
Yeah, I would say again, don't be afraid to try it. I know it sounds a little scary, and some people think that it's hokey, but as I mentioned, it is a master's degree in training to do it plus board certification. It is a medicine that goes back thousands of years, whereas our modern medicine, as we know it, has only been around 300, 400, 500 years.
mhm.
So don't knock it before you try it. Sit and talk to a practitioner and see if they can answer your questions and give it a shot before completely ruling it out. Some insurances will cover it too, which might be helpful.
Yeah.
And some practices do community acupuncture, which makes it a lot more accessible to people who cannot afford private sessions. And really, what that is just you're in a community setting when you receive acupuncture. So you're in a room with people on recliners, and nothing is exposed except for your arms and legs. And it's a very affordable way to get the care,
Yeah.
especially if you can't afford to do
Yeah.
private sessions. But it's so worth it that myself as an acupuncturist, I seek out my own acupuncture treatments.
Yeah.
I can put needles on myself, but it's not the same as being taken care of as a patient, right? So
Right.
I try not to go more than a month without acupuncture.
Mhm.
So if it's that valuable, for a practitioner, it can probably do a lot of good for you too.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me for this interview. Where
Yeah.
tell me where your like what your business name is and where you're located.
So my business name is Acupuncture Joe without the E, so just J-O, because Acupuncture Jocey, it sounds like a larger mouthful.
Yeah.
And I am practicing out of Davidson, North Carolina right now. But I do offer phone consultations, if you want to see if acupuncture is right for you, or virtual consultations. And we definitely, at least in my practice, I like to look at the person as a whole. So there's a lot more than just acupuncture. There's going to be discussion about your nutrition, about your supplements, your lifestyle, what products you're using, what kind of exercise are you doing, all of those things. And they all
Hmm.
make a greater picture of your health. And the homework that you get from that alone is sometimes more valuable than the acupuncture itself.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll put all of your contact information in the link,
Thanks.
but thank you so much.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.